In the hours after the May 16th tornado tore a path of destruction in North St. Louis, a new kind of relief effort took root.
It came to the aid of survivors. As Brent Solomon explains, the grassroots group 314 Oasis is now moving from crisis care to a long-term plan for the city's survival.
You know, 1 year later, the scars on the landscape are visible, but the invisible trauma remains for so many. It is why I caught up with the Dr. L.J. Punch, a familiar face in St. Louis healthcare, who walked away from a career to ensure that when the next storm hits, St. Louis isn't left to pick up the pieces alone. The dark skies, the flying debris, and what seemed like a matter of minutes, changing the landscape forever. Before the dust even settled, the community began to rally.
314 Oasis is a collective effort that formed the moment neighbors and community members went outside to help each other, which happened literally in the hour after the storm.
At the time, Dr. L.J. Punch was the medical director for the bullet-related injury clinic. He saw the disaster through the lens of a physician.
You don't leave the bedside of someone who's in critical condition, and the city was in critical condition.
That conviction cost Punch his job because he knew he had to commit himself to recovery, immediately giving birth to 314 Oasis.
The initial response included every single day presence for 70 days in a row.
Right here in Fountain Park, providing everything from hot meals to acupuncture for storm survivors.
What are we doing?
What are we doing? We are feeding the folk. Look at God. Won't God do everything?
The crisis phase has now ended, but recovery efforts are still very much underway.
People have no idea that there's still children living in cars. They have no idea that people are breathing in molds.
314 Oasis is now setting up shop at the Del Mar Divide, acting as a bridge for survivors still working to get on their feet.
There's a lot of programs right now, but people are applying and they don't necessarily know what's happening next. Oasis Care was us recognizing that people needed to be walked through and accompanied on that process.
The effort, which started with no funding at all, is now getting a boost from the city and the McDonald Foundation as it focuses on its next chapter, the Community First Responder Network, training ordinary citizens on how to handle future disasters.
It's just not going to be okay ever again to say we did it now. Now we know.
As the 1 year mark arrives Saturday, the group has a message to city leaders. Ensure displaced storm survivors can get back home.
So much of what the 314 Oasis has tried to do is to hold neighborhoods as cohesively as possible until they can rebuild themselves. And they can't if we don't decide they're worth rebuilding. The north side is the North Star of the city. We don't make it as a region if the north side doesn't.
Come Saturday, 314 Oasis will hold a day of remembrance from 9 a.m. until 11 a.m. at O'Fallon Park, and then from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. at Fountain Park. There will be food, a tree memorial, and a grief circle, as well as disaster resources on hand. Attendees will pause for a moment of silence at 2:39 p.m., the exact time the tornado hit.
Our coverage of rebuilding St. Louis 1 year later continues now on the 5 on Your Side app. There you can watch several of our stories on the recovery efforts over the last 12 months. To download our free app, just scan the QR code on your screen, or you can search KSTK in your app store.